Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. This is Bride of Monster Kid Radio, and it is the last week of 2025's Lucha de Mayo, where we do nothing but look at luchador movies because I love me some luchador movies almost as much as I love monster movies. And when you mix the two of them together, oh man, I'm in monster heaven. You know what else I love? I love surf music, and I love looking for surf music to play here on the show, like this song right here. It's from the band Anémonas. They are a Mexican surf band based out of Mexico City. It's from their EP in Directo, and the song is awesome. It's called Pez Diablo. You can check them out over at anemonas.bandcamp.com. That is spelled anemonas.bandcamp.com. Or just follow the link in the show notes over at monsterkidradio.net. That is our still out-of-date website, but the links all still work for what we do here at Bride of Monster Kid Radio. By the way, my name is Derek M. Cook, the writer, host, and producer of the podcast. Welcome to the show. I hope you're enjoying the music. I hope you've enjoyed our look at luchador movies this year. I've had a blast taking a look at movies, luchador films that I had never seen before, and this week is no exception. We're going to be taking a look at another Santo movie. This one is, it's an interesting one. It's from 1965 and is called The Diabolical Axe. Now here's the thing. A lot of these luchador movies have never had a release up here in the States, north of the border, so to speak. A lot of them have never had an English language track. Okay, most of them haven't had an English language track, but a lot of them haven't even had an English subtitled track. So I'm not able to watch a lot of these movies because I don't speak Spanish. I'm not able to roll my R's, so even if I wanted to try to speak Spanish, I wouldn't be able to pull it off. I can't read Spanish. What am I going to do? Well, on the one hand, I do speak the international language of wrestling, so I can enjoy these movies for what they are on that level. But we live in a really interesting technological day and age where you are able to take movies that have never been translated or subtitled in their original language, do some magic behind the scenes using tools that you and I have access to. This isn't like some weird AI thing that only a few people up in the clouds know how to work. This is like YouTube and video editing software and a few other things. I took the version that I found of the Diabolical Axe. I took the captions provided by a closed captioning thing. I translated them all. I did the best that I could to make it kind of make sense without really losing the story, and put them back into the movie, and then rendered the movie as a video file that I can sit down with this week's guest to watch. Is it an accurate translation? I have no idea. I don't speak Spanish. But I think the story is good enough that I'm going to be able to follow it along with my wife, Beth, who's going to be joining me this week to view this film. This also continues another trend for this week's Lucha de Mayo, and that is that this is another movie I've never seen before. All month, we've been doing luchador movies that were brand new watches for me, and I've absolutely loved it. Am I a little disappointed I didn't get some Mil Mascaras on this year? Yeah, but you know what? There's always 2026, 2027, and so on, because I don't see myself stopping Lucha de Mayo. Heck, I don't see myself stopping watching luchador movies anytime soon. In fact, I'm so excited about this version of this luchador movie. I'm going to be playing it on the stream starting tomorrow. So head over to twitch.tv/monsterkidradio. I'm going to put this in the mix, and then I'm going to play a few other luchador movies as well. But check that out. That's going to be going live, say, Tuesday night. That would be May 27th at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Some of the movies that I played last weekend are going to be there as well. But, it's the Diabolical Axe. I want to share with you the work that I did to kind of sort of create a subtitled track so you can enjoy this movie. And it's a weird one. It's less than an hour long. It's Santo. I don't want to get into it anymore without having Beth on the show to talk about it. We also have some feedback this week, some Luchador feedback, Lucha de Mayo feedback that we're going to be going over as well. And of course, we've got Mark Matzke's Beta Capsule review coming up. He promises me there are no terrible puns in this week's installment of his review of Ultraman Ace. And I guess we'll find out right after this.
Tonight, the world's most horrible combination of the decade, showing in blood-curdling color.
See a most diabolical story of sacrifices to a non-human creature in Brides of Blood, starring John Ashley.
The second unbelievable terror will scare the pure living yell out of you when you see Christopher Lee in Blood Fiend. A pre-engagement ring set will be given to the girls who attend. Tonight, it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If the Brides of Blood don't get you, the Blood Fiend must.
So, will we see you tonight? Good.
You will enter the world of the fifth dimension. The light, the sound, the horror. You will feel it around you. You will see the vampire as though he were attacking you. You will see the curse of the doll people as though they were about to kill you. See live monsters around you and ghouls. Bring your playthings. Have a cocktail from the vampire's blood bank.
Coming soon.
This June,
It's the Monster Bash Conference at the Pittsburgh Marriott North in Cranberry Township. Fans of classic horror and science fiction films and TV will gather from across the United States and beyond. It's where you can meet and get autographs from movie and TV actors and actresses. This June 20th through the 22nd, 2025, meet Catherine Lee Scott and Sharon Smythe from the original Dark Shadows TV show, plus writer and zombie from the original Night of the Living Dead, John Russo, and the kids and grandkids of the original Universal Monsters, Frankenstein, creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, the Wolfman, and the Mummy, Ron Chaney, Lynn Lugosi, Renee Browning. Also appearing, the Monsters movie grandpa Daniel Roebuck, TV horror host Son of Ghoul, an Ohio TV legend, and horror host Mr. Lobo. Renegade monster movie director David The Rock Nelson will be filming on site as well. You'll love shopping over 100 vendor tables featuring movie collectibles, DVDs, Blu-rays, vintage toys, vinyl records, monster magazines, comic books, and more to boggle your eyes. Rare film screenings, special talks, and live game shows where you can win great prizes. It's all part of Monster Bash at the Pittsburgh Marriott North, June 20th through the 22nd, 2025. For discounted advance admission, go to the website monsterbash.us. That's monsterbash.us. Or call 724-238-4317 for more information.
We love the Monster Bash! Woo!
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Ultraman Ace, Episode 41, Winter Horror Series. Scary Story, Lion Drum. Dan's friend Shinta has a father who's been praying to a statue of the deity Kaima-sama, asking it to punish anyone who interrupts a traditional lion dance. He's doing this because he was a shishimai dancer, a lion dance expert, until hooligans injured him at a performance. During a game of hide-and-seek, Dan and Shinta come across his old lion headdress, which they proceed to use to play Terrible Monster versus the Ultra Brothers, until Hokuto and Mikawa arrive. Evidently, Tak picked up a faint reading indicating a terrible monster in the neighborhood, but none is apparent. That is, until Shinta, who had been wearing the lion mask, tries to take it off. A psychic link is forged between the mask and Shinta's father, who begins playing the lion drum, which causes his son to become terrible monster Shishigoran. Hokuto chases Shinta's father home just in time to see the statue Kaima-sama take monster form, prompting the appearance of Ultraman Ace, who must battle two monsters, in one of which young Shinta is trapped. Episode 41, broadcast on January 12, 1973, is the first in the Winter Horror series, and is a winning return to form for Ultraman Ace, blending monster action with ancient tradition, enhanced by a subtle cautionary theme. Central to the story is the shishimai, a traditional Japanese performing art in which a lion-masked figure dances to ward off evil spirits and ensure good health and fortune. Choreography and costume style vary by region, but the look of the dancer is striking in every case, as seen in the closing segment of episode 41. And not to suggest a cause and effect, but it's worth mentioning that just over 1 year later, in March 1974, the Toho Studios film Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla would introduce the character of Kingu Shisa, or King Caesar, a lion-like guardian of Okinawa, a monster very much rooted in the helpful nature of the shishimai. For Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
How much shock can you take? It will haunt you forever. From the depth of evil comes the diabolic killer of beautiful women. The vampire's coffin. See a vampire's body stolen from its tomb. A psycho killer removes the stakes so the vampire can again prey on beautiful women. It's in the vampire's coffin. And to complete a double night of horror, a monstrous nightmare of terror, turn loose in a fight to the death. The robot versus the Aztec mummy. They will bring you a night of terror. We dare you to see them, but don't come alone. The Vampire's Coffin in an all-new double horrorama show with The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, presented in Hypnoscope. To heighten the horror, shock your senses, chill your brain. It could only be shown at midnight.
It's so scary, we dare you to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party, the first movie ever filmed in horror vision, Hollywood's latest miracle. You'll scream as fiendish movie monsters actually become alive, then crash right out of the screen, go into the audience, and carry screaming girls from their seats right back into the picture to become part of the movie. We warn you, horror vision is not 3D. The movie monsters become real flesh and blood. Be sure to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party in horror vision and color.
The Astro Zombies, of human electronic transplants that mutilate, torture, and kill in an orgy of blood-splattering horror beyond your imagination. Their creed was to kill, kill, kill. Watch as a deranged scientist transfers beating hearts and throbbing brains from living bodies to create the Astro Zombies. Horror, suspense, and chills tear at your senses as Wendell Corey and John Carradine match wits in the blood-drenched color film The Astro Zombies. Coming soon to your local theater. Watch it and die 1,000 deaths.
Hey, Derek. Hey, Beth. Hey, group. Captain Billy here. So I was listening to that last episode talking about Wild West Santo, and you speculated that it was a time travel how Santo wound up in the Old West. Derek, this sounds like the perfect question for you to answer. Susan, you're a smart guy. You should be able to figure out a way of putting the continuity to all the Santo movies. Well, Derek, you're just the man to do it. Between you and all these Super Santo fans you have in your audience, you should create a board somewhere, a sub-board wherever on the Classic Monster board or your Patreon page, where everyone tries to figure out what you have to do to connect all the Santo movies. Years ago, someone wrote a book about how the Frankenstein monster got his new suit between, is it Ghost of Frankenstein and Meets the Werewolf Wolfman, or Wolfman and House? One of those movies. He ended up getting a new set of clothes, and so this sounds exactly the kind of project for you and your super fans to tackle. About Santos in the Old West, I mean, I was thinking of ways. I mean, it could be time travel. He's known scientist. You could create a little connecting story where Santos, the scientist creates a time machine and puts Santos back in the past. Is it Santos' dad? Santo was born in 1917, you said. This could have been the tail end of the Wild West, 1880s, 1890s. Maybe it was Santos' dad. Maybe there have been Santos for centuries. Todd McFarlane created Spawn. He had Spawn. There's a medieval Spawn, a gunslinger Spawn. Maybe there have been Santos since the creation of mankind. You don't know. Caveman Santo? The world is your oyster. These are all wonderful ideas for some fan fiction. Is it an alternate universe Santo in the Wild West? Possibly. Again, you could have Santo jumping dimensions. You have Santo versus Santo. My personal favorite that I thought of is there a movie somewhere where Santo falls asleep or is knocked unconscious and then he wakes up? You could have the Wild West Santo take place. That would be the dream he has during that movie between the time he's knocked out and wakes up. So, just a thought, Derek. Like I said, I love the show. Keep up the good work. I'll talk to you later.
Hey, Captain Billy, thanks for calling in. I wanted to address this before I had Beth come on the show and all that. She's in the other room, and we're going to sit down and about to watch the movie, actually. But it's funny you bring this up because the movie we're talking about this week could very well solve all the continuity problems. I kid you not. At least that's what I've picked up creating this weird English subtitle track thing. It could solve every issue in the continuity. We'll see. As far as, me being somebody to spearhead, trying to come up with some sort of solid continuity, the idea is appealing, but I do have other things that I need to write right now, and I really need to get back to those projects. I have not been writing anything for months with the new job and just trying to get on with the business of, surviving. Now that I'm settled into my position at the Lego group, I can kind of take a deep breath and relax a little bit and get back to writing, which is a big part of who I am. I would love to write a luchador story. I just don't know if I have the time to take on somebody else's IP when I've got my own intellectual property. I really need to get out of my head and onto the page in a very gentle, humane way, of course. All right. I will let Beth know that you called in, though, when I bring her into the room and we sit down to watch the movie. Thanks for calling in, man. I really appreciate it. And listeners, if you want to be cool like Captain Billy, you just got to give us a call. Leave us a voicemail over at 360-524-2484. That's also on the website, of course, at monsterkidradio.net.
I am Dracula. and I bid you welcome to the podcast devoted to the classic, and sometimes not so classic, genre cinema of yesteryear. And I offer you this warning. Sometimes Derek and his guests get excited, and they may spoil a movie or two. You know how excited Monster Kids can get sometimes. If Monster Kid Radio spoils a movie for you, do not come whining to me. I cannot stand whines.
Okay, we are at the very end of Lucha de Mayo 2025, our month-long look at the luchador films that I love so much. And we started the month with Beth. We're ending the month with Beth. She's right here.
Hola.
Really?
Sure, why not?
Okay, fair enough. Before we talk about the movie, I have an email I want to read.
Oh, okay, great.
This comes from listener Marlo.
Hey, Marlo.
Dear Beth and Derek, I'm a librarian in Texas, and I wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed episode 24 of Bride of Monster Kid Radio.
Okay, pause right there. Love to all librarians everywhere. My best friend, when she's not being the coolest electrician ever, is a part-time librarian. Every school librarian I had was great. I had several favorite librarians at the county library. Thank you for being a librarian and doing what you do. You matter. Go ahead.
So Marlo is a reference librarian. He's in Texas.
Great.
And that's awesome. Anyway, he says, I'm a fan of El Santo, so I'll see if I can find The Revenge of the Crying Woman or Vengeance of the Crying Woman, the one that we talked about.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Santo movie so far is Santo versus the Daughter of Frankenstein. Sutter, which you've probably already covered in a past episode. It has the vibrant colors of the early 1970s, a bonkers plot, Santo driving a tiny sports car, and all the other things I look for in one of his movies. I don't remember if I've talked about this in a previous episode or not.
Okay, but I feel like when we go into somewhere in the lineup, you know, when we do Son of Frankenstein, then we can do Santo versus the Daughter of Frankenstein before we move on. Just as a palate cleanser.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Great suggestion.
He continues, I always enjoy your intro music. And then he recommends the band The Green Car Motel. Now, I've been sitting on this email because I've been trying to get the Green Car Motel to give me the okay to play their music here on the show, but I have not heard back from them yet.
Oh.
So if you have any connections, Marlo, let me know because I'd love to play it because there's some cool music.
Wait, Marlo?
Yeah.
Spell that.
Marlo.
Okay, that's so weird because I picked up a Coke today and it was have a Coke with Marlo. Okay, so that seems faded. Have a Coke, Marlo.
Marlo continues, you asked about recent horror movies with wrestlers.
Yes.
I can suggest 2023's Here for Blood.
Ooh.
It's a horror/dark comedy starring Sean Roberts with a voice cameo by Dee Snider. Roberts plays a pro wrestler whose girlfriend talks him into subbing for her on a babysitting job.
That's my best teacher laugh.
While she prepares for exams. He takes the gig, and on that night, a Lovecraftian cult comes to call, intending to kidnap and sacrifice the girl he's babysitting. Violence ensues. I liked it a lot.
Oh, no, I can get behind that. Let's do it. Yeah.
Thanks again, and I'll be looking forward to more Lucha de Mayo content. Regards, Marlo. I actually have seen Here for Blood. I saw it, I watched it when you were out of town this last time.
Oh, instead of cleaning up your mess.
Yes. Very important.
Well, now you're going to have to watch it again, so.
So Sean Roberts is the lead, and he is a big buff dude. He plays a pro wrestler, but I don't think he is a wrestler in real life.
Question, is he tall?
Yes.
Is he, like, wide-shouldered?
Yes.
Is he bald?
No.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'll watch it.
It's a fun kind of throwback movie a little bit. I'm glad I watched it. And I think it's kind of funny that, Marlo brought it up because we've been talking about would a luchador movie, would a wrestling movie work today?
Yeah.
We got a voicemail as well from Phil Lehman, also known as Bad Shark Blackhand,
Oh, okay, yeah.
who was talking about that as well, and I'll drop his voicemail in here in a little bit. He also submitted some artwork that I want to show you.
Ooh.
But Marlo, thanks for writing in. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marlo.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope you've enjoyed Lucha de Mayo this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know I certainly have. And apparently so has Phil. Dear Beth, Wednesday, and Derek.
Oh, Wednesday actually has been enjoying the Santa movies quite a bit.
Yes.
I think they're fun. They're good for her to track on screen.
Yeah, that's true.
The black and white works well. She can't see the color anyway.
So this is a little bit about Lucha de Mayo with some of it's just kind of general feedback as well. I've really enjoyed Lucha de Mayo this year because of all the first-time viewings. Derek, you project a creative energy when you review a new-to-you movie that I really enjoy, especially when you have Kenny or Steve on as co-host. Steve Turek, that is. I've got to see Blue Demon, as I love haunted houses, be they movies, local Halloween spook houses, or Disney's Haunted Mansion. Blue Demon is a movie that I covered last week with Kenny from Old Mexico.
Right.
And it's literally Blue Demon running around a haunted house. It's fantastic.
That's brilliant. Well, now I'm going to have to watch that. I heard you guys talking about it on the show, but I didn't realize quite that that's...
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful. It's like an old dark house with a luchas.
Oh, he'd love the Lego project I'm working on.
Yeah.
A giant Lego haunted house.
Which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He continues, I enjoyed your discussion of luchador masks with Robert Kelly and the use of your luchador name, El Monstro Infantino.
Oh.
He wants to know if that was a reference to Carmen Infantino, the comic book artist. And it really wasn't, but I'll take it.
Nice.
I just figured El Monstro Infantino.
Monster Kid.
Monster Kid. He continues, and this is where it's really cool. I took the liberty of designing a mask for you.
Oh, my
I didn't put the call out saying, hey, I need to know what my luchador mask looks like. He chose black because of its classic elegance.
Fair.
And gold for its use in awards to give you a singular mask that incorporates a symbolic headset and microphone with a gray wicking interior layer to aid in cooling. That's just awesome. And I'll show you the picture here in a second. I'll have to design a mask for myself, but my luchador name translates to... How about you take a crack at that? My luchador name translates to...
Tiburon Malo Mano Negra.
There you go.
Okay.
Watch that left. Ooh, watch that left turn.
Oh, bad. Okay, bad and hand and shark and... Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's all in there. Yeah.
Watch that left turn at Albuquerque if you want to get to Pismo Beach. Bad Shark Blackhand. And I started saying his full name because he said it was okay. Phil Emmons also appeared on the People's Guide to Cthulhu Mythos, which is actually how he found out about us.
Oh, really?
So shout out to what they do over there at the PGTC, People's Guide to Cthulhu Mythos. Anyway, here's the mask that he designed. I kind of like it. I think that's a great starting point, and now I need to have a custom mask made. You see the headset?
I see the headset. I really love the headset part. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that is perfect for you. Yeah, it's
brilliant. Gold.
You know what? And then when you go to do commentary at local wrestling, you wear the mask. And it's got the headset on the... Oh, I love because now you just wear microphones. Nobody really wears like the whole headset anymore. So it's on the mask.
I love it so much. I'm going to post this in the show notes. I hope that's okay.
Oh, I love it.
It's great. I think it's a good start, and I want a mask now using that as the base.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Okay. I want to talk about the last movie we're talking about for Lucha de Mayo this year.
Okay.
It is the Diabolical Axe, also known as Santo and the Diabolical Hatchet, also known as El Hacha Diabolica. That's my attempt at speaking Spanish.
Yep.
That was an attempt.
That was an attempt.
And as I talked about earlier in the show, this is one that's never had an official English subtitled release. So I've spent the past week going through, trying to translate things, and I think I did an okay-ish job.
You did a good job. I really had no problem following that. It was the only parts I had trouble following, there was no dialogue, so it's not like that would have helped. They just were showing things. But no, for translation wise, you did a fantastic job. And
yeah, I mean, I picked up a few bits here and there watching it this time. Like, oh, okay, I messed that up. Okay, I messed that up. But
little bits here and there, but you could definitely follow the story. You could tell what people were meaning, if not exactly the words they were saying. But if you don't speak the language anyway, you're not getting the exact nuance anyway. So having it slightly different, you're getting the general meaning is.
You say nuance. There's no nuance in this. Okay.
This has been a project all weekend, folks.
It really has. So here's the thing.
And it's Memorial Day weekend, so.
The Internet Movie Database says this movie is 1 hour and 14 minutes long. The YouTube version of the movie is 56 minutes long. So there's like 15 minutes, maybe more, that is unaccounted for. And maybe those are all the bits with the extra dialogue that kind of bridges gaps and explains.
It does feel like they cut it back to like a TV movie, maybe?
There are a few bits, and there's even some artificially slowed down moments.
Now, what year is it?
1965.
Ooh, so very well could be, because I know a lot of like Mexico and Central America and stuff in like 64, 65, they started getting regular TV service and broadcast TV and stuff that in places where they hadn't had it before. And so they may have turned it into a TV movie.
They may,
and yeah, it just needs about either 15 minutes of dialogue to explain things, or a couple really good cards with an explanation, like they did with the old silent movies where,
it's interesting
just to kind of get you into it. Or even some early Disney animation had the card to get you into the story.
Or serials.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because that's where one thing I wanted to talk about is that in this movie, especially the fight scenes are shot like an old serial from the 1930s or 40s, where the camera is in a big room and the camera is like attached to a wall, getting like a 3/4 bird's eye view.
Yep.
And the entire room becomes like the fighting area. And they're just pushing things around, knocking over tables, all that. And it really felt like a serial to me in some of the fight scenes.
Or at its best, the camera work is often it's on a rail and it's just moving to the right or to the left.
I loved that.
But I mean, it was more, but it's not like what we have today with advanced camera work and rigs and all the different things and people just moving around with it on their shoulder anyway. And,
Yeah, there's no steady camera. No, this is...
Yeah.
What I really liked about it, though, is that there's that stuff that you just mentioned. There are a few camera push-ins and pull-outs and all that, which felt a little bit more sophisticated for some of these luchador movies. And there's some appearing and disappearing characters that sometimes comes off as a little silly. But there's also some double exposure stuff happening that I felt was a little bit more sophisticated compared to what we've seen before. Or since in some of these movies. And I really, really enjoyed that. I thought there are some elements in this movie that are really cool. You know how I've talked about how I used to think I'd be a filmmaker when I grew up?
Yeah.
There was a video production course that I took when I was in community college in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Right.
I take it 3 times for credit. I took it 6 times because I wanted to play with the equipment. And had a blast. The final of the semester, and it never changed, was to make a mini movie. Taking all the skills that we learned for the entire semester to make one narrative video. And I loved it. I had so much fun doing that. There was a guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, but there was a guy in the class, and when it came time to present the mini movies to everybody, so-and-so put in their movie, so-and-so, whoever put in their movie.
Yeah.
This guy put in his. And all it is him sitting in his car, driving around town with the radio on. Every once in a while, he zooms in on the traffic light when he's at a red light and then zooms back out. And after about 5-10 minutes of this, the instructor, Pam, asks him, "Is this it?" And his response was, "I didn't have time to put in the plot."
Oh, no.
And I feel like there are parts of this movie where they didn't put in the plots.
A little bit.
There's a lot of big stretches of...
Or maybe there's stuff we're supposed to know about Santo from other movies or other things.
Maybe.
Or from comics or from whatever.
Well, I mean, you say comics, that's where Santo started. It was a
right,
comic
I know.
character.
Yeah.
Well, as a wrestler that got into comics and then whatever. But,
yeah.
I feel like there's these huge, long sequences of Santo trying to get into a building. And he's climbing over walls.
I mean, and the parkour is impressive, especially for the age and the time. And you just know if he fell, he was just falling. It wasn't.
Yeah, and there's even a moment where it looks like he's off balance for a second.
There are no
himself.
wires. This is the same as when they're walking the wire in the ring, you know?
And that's fine, but it just went on and on. And, somebody who's trying to create subtitles in a language that he doesn't understand, awesome, because there's no dialogue, Doria. But did we really need that? I don't know, it felt like a 20-minute interlude of him just snooping around the back of a building, trying to get in, so much so that we kind of lose the geography.
Or I enjoyed him going up the garden wall from the outside.
Yeah.
And because that was impressive.
Yeah.
Like the jump was impressive. He kind of half climbed. You'll see it when you guys watch it, but it's impressive. But then it took him like 15 minutes to get down through a series of levels. And I thought, well, how did he hurt himself getting up? And then we had to go slow getting down. You could have just cut to like down and in the doorway and that would have been okay. Yeah. And then you could have given us some more actual plot.
Right.
Like let's cut 10 minutes of getting down and put 10 minutes of plot in. That would be great. Thanks.
That would be really good. So I want to talk about the story because I don't think this is one a lot of people have seen. And we have given a spoiler warning because we do that all the time here on the show. This movie starts in the 16th century?
17th century, the 1600s.
Okay. And it's a funeral procession that goes on for a long time.
With a whole bunch of hooded monks all in black, and they got dark torches, and,
And they're laying Santo to rest, or at least laying the Silver Mask to rest. They say something about how he renounced his nobility and tried to live a peaceful Christian life. And they walk away, and then a man in a black hood appears and says, I'm going to chase you through the generations. And now we're in the 20th century. And Santo's in the ring.
Oh, and the hood man has an axe.
Oh, and the hooded man has an axe. Yeah, a hatchet axe, whatever.
Like an executioner's axe from like Tudor era. Well, which is the right step at the right time. It is
right.
Yeah.
And we're in the wrestling ring, and it's a nice long wrestling match because that's what these movies do. And then suddenly the black hooded man appears with the axe and is trying to attack people and kill people. And there's a whole fight scene.
And he just blinks in.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they had a better effect, but to cut time, they just started blinking people in and out. And it's a little jarring.
It is a little jarring. At one point, he throws the axe.
Yeah.
And it gets stuck in something. So, I mean, it's not just, for play. It's a real object. It's real solid. And then the cops shoot him and then he disappears. And in the locker room, Santo's getting a rub down and they're asking him, what's going on? I have no idea, says Santo. And there's a photographer who's like, well, this is just a publicity stunt. And then he sees the show.
No, it's the cop, isn't it?
No, the photographer's like, I've seen it all before. This is all a big joke. This is all we're setting up a new match.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
And then the photographer sees a silhouette of a man on the wall holding an axe, and he freaks out and he leaves. And that's the last time we hear from him. We see him later, but we don't over. This is exactly what the movie is. There's a man in a black coat with an axe trying to kill Santa. Why? Because something happened in the past. But don't worry, we're going to go to the past.
Eventually.
But first, Santo has a girlfriend. I think her name's Alicia. And he does something in this movie that blew my mind.
Wait. Do you mean the blonde?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is crazy. From what I know of, Luchas, no, you don't do this.
You don't do this at all. He takes off his mask. She's like, I want to see you for what you are. Are you hiding a deformity? And he says no. You're one of the only people that'll ever get to see me as I truly am. And he takes off this mask. Now, his back is to the camera.
Although we get kind of a 2/3 jaw profile. You get a jawline. He's clearly an attractive man.
Yeah, and he kisses her.
Yeah.
He's doomed her because later on she does fall victim to the man in the black hood. We think, we're pretty sure, it's implied. I mean, he shows up at her house and...
I kind of thought that when he took the mask off that he's doomed her.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no. I've never seen this before. And maybe some of the Santo and Luchador movies that have not made it up here or have not received a subtitle treatment, this is more common. Mm-hmm. And as an American who doesn't speak the language, who doesn't have access to all of them, I'm not used to seeing this. I don't know, but it blew my mind.
A lot of death in this one.
A lot of death in this one, too. He's got a professor friend because of course he does, or a doctor or whatever.
He's got some smart guy on speed dial.
And
except speed dial is still on rotary.
That's true. He's got the axe. The Ackman left the axe behind. So he's got the axe. He takes us to his doctor friend. Doctor friend looks at it and finds like this mark that says it's of Satan or the devil. 1603 is a number that's on there for some reason. And then he looks at Santo's mask and finds an opposing symbol. What does the symbol say?
Abracadabra.
I'm not kidding.
No, that's why I didn't say it any fancier than that.
It literally says abracadabra. There's a triangle somewhere on the mask.
It just says abracadabra over and over.
Yeah, like the top of the triangle says A, and then AB, and then ABR, mm-hmm. and those spells the entire word out. And they learn that it comes from an old magic user named Abraca, who we will learn later was apparently somebody who was guiding the fate of all of Santos, the entire generational line. It almost felt like this weird kind of old man wizard Shazam Captain Marvel thing at one point.
Oh, okay. I got what you mean.
Well, the professor is like, we're going to talk about the mask, but then they see a vision of a woman named Isabel.
Yeah.
Who
is some past love of some past ancestor of Santo.
Santo calls out her name, Isabel.
Yeah.
But as soon as Isabel disappears and goes back into the void,
he's like, I know nothing.
I have no memory of what just happened. So the professor says, well, I know what we'll do. Why don't we go back in time and see if we can figure this out? I happen to have a time machine. Here, sit down in my very low budget version of a Doctor Who set.
With the camera in the corner.
With the camera in the corner. It's
it's like from Doctor Who when he was stranded on Earth for all those years.
It's this, man. It's a weird little set. I kind of like it for what it is because it looks so cheap.
Well, for a while I was like, why is all the furniture pushed to the outside of the room? And then I'm like, oh, because we're going to have a wrestling match, okay?
Right. Well, we had to have room for the time machine. Yeah. It's just a real... Yeah. Like, they put on these little hats. And
there's several TV antennas all hooked together on a box or some tables, I'm not sure.
And we're watching it, and you make a comment about how whatever this professor is doing, browning out half of Mexico, because all the lights are going on and off. And
that half of Mexico City just went dark.
And then we have this weird double exposure thing where Santos stands up, and now we're back in the 17th century.
Walks out of his body and into the 17th century.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And then we get something else that I haven't seen in a luchador movie.
Okay.
A sword fight. And it was a decent sword fight.
Well, okay. So I believe that was his ancestor.
So we think the guy that was all in white or silver was a previous generation Santo.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was fighting like the ancestor. He was fighting the man in black who was still alive at that point.
Who is in love with Isabel.
They're both in love with Isabel.
But Isabel's only in love with Santo.
Of course, he's Santo.
Right.
But they are both in love with Isabel. She just makes the right decision. And unfortunately, the other guy is like, hail Satan.
Yeah, the other guy is like, I follow you. Listen to me. He's very abrupt.
Yeah.
If you're calling upon the dark powers, maybe
try please.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more polite, some humility maybe, because, I don't think they play nice and they don't respond well.
Also, he's really into taxidermy.
So many stuffed animals.
And not in the way you want.
No.
Not like Care Bears.
So there's this sword fight, and then there's this jump, and Santo is there, and they capture the man in black and burn him at the stake because that's what you do, but he says he let himself get caught so you can see I have no power. You have no power over me.
And then his mask comes off and whips away, and then his evil spirit is free to roam the earth, I guess.
And wait for Santo's son.
Yeah.
And then they go back to...
Well, no, I think it's implied that he keeps just hunting them down.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Once we get back to the modern day, they're done with their little time travel jaunt. The man in black shows up in the room.
Yeah.
We have the wrestling match. Professor gets an axe. Turns out he's actually Abraca. So this whole, what does this mean?
I know. Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. From a certain point of view, okay. So Abraca's there, and he's like, I don't know what's happening. This movie's so weird. And there it turns out of this... He's got to find Isabel's remains to put her at peace because...
She was buried alive, which is kind of horrible.
Yeah. I love the bit where Santo is sitting at his desk with a hardcover book, and he says, this catalog has all the colonial houses in Mexico. I will find that house in this book. And about 10 minutes later, I found the picture. And then we go to the bit where he's climbing all over the walls and all that. And
to be fair, if you're in a state like Virginia, they have books like that and you can actually look stuff up. Well, I mean, you can't unless Annabelle's been there, but...
Well, I believe it. The thing with Alicia and the girlfriend, there's no conflict between Isabel, the lost love, and Alicia, the modern girlfriend. There should have been, I think. Santo tells Alicia, don't leave me alone. I'm in danger. I don't want you to be in danger. I will let you know when it's safe. And later that night, she calls him anyway. And that's when the black hooded stranger, I guess, kills her. She wakes up, freaked out, calls Santo. Santo says, what's up? She says something terrible happened. Then the black hooded stranger shows up and attacks her.
We see him in the window.
But did she? I felt like she jumped the gun. It doesn't matter.
Anyway. She gets murdered.
And Santo goes to the house, calls the cops. Hey, cops, there's a dead woman in here.
Don't worry, I'm on it.
I'm on it. I'm Santo.
Just take my word for it.
We're good.
Because they can see his mask through the phone.
But it implies the trope that Santo is a champion.
Yeah.
He's friends with all the professors, all the police.
Yeah, he's not like Batman where he's having to hide from the cops.
No, it's cool, The movie's silly. It's truncated. I'm sure we're missing something important.
Oh, yeah. No, it feels... That's why I'm saying I'd be interested to see if you looked at dates of other Santo movies just before that and ones after, or do they get shorter? Because there was definitely a shift in a lot of things for TV in the U.S. also in the 60s, where all of the sudden stuff that would have been for the theater is now getting cut down so that it can be used for TV. And for a bit you had some of that, and so things felt a little funky. And then once they learned to just do it in an hour or a half an hour or whatever, then it was fine. But before that, if you'd been used to having an hour and a half for a drama.
Well, I know here in the U.S., even in the 70s and 80s, you started seeing shorter movies getting stuff added to it. The original Halloween, there's footage that was shot for television. Mm-hmm. There are things from 1970s King Kong movie that was shot for television that, wasn't in a theatrical cut, but to make it fit the length of a TV movie on TV with commercials, they added more stuff. So, I mean, you'd see it go back and forth. So I do wonder if this was a TV thing, or at some point it got
It felt like it had been like a movie theater movie that got cut down to be a TV movie.
Yeah. Captain Billy called in.
Yeah.
And y'all heard that voicemail already. I played it at the beginning of this. And he had suggested, based on a comment that I made with Robert Kelly a couple weeks ago, the Santo movie where he's in the Old West.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted some continuity. I wanted to know how Santo, who was a modern day hero at the time, ended up in the Old West.
Okay.
And I wanted a story. I wanted a connection. Did he time travel? Was he related to Santo? And Captain Billy's like, well, why don't you write it? Why don't you write the big Santo canon chronology? Maybe you make it make sense, fill in the gaps, things like that. And I told him, coincidentally, the movie we're watching this week fixes everything. Because this movie tells us that Santo is like the Flash. He's a generational hero. There's always a Santo.
And it's hinted at that they are linked.
Yeah.
In some way, like familially or something down the generations.
So that Old West movie that I saw with Robert Kelly,
though I think you could be like my great-grandfather through my mother's line. It could totally go like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's only ever one mask.
Right. That's the generational part. Yeah.
Right. So he's like the Flash or the Ghost Rider.
Or Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, okay. That's kind of fun. That is so...
So there's only ever one Slayer. See, so when one Slayer dies, then another one rises.
That's completely out of my wheelhouse.
Just trust me.
But I have a character in my on the back burner book named Pentacle, who is that? Is a generational character or hero. And this movie fixes Santo chronology. All the different Santo movies, it could be the same Santo, it might not be the same Santo. It's the same.
It might be his nephew, it might be his, great-grandfather, it might be his great-great-great-great-grandfather.
And it's a magical mask that says abracadabra right on it.
Yeah. And the mask is passed down.
Yes.
It is willed. We get that. That's clearly mentioned that it was willed from his father. It was given to him in his will. And the fact that both he said, the translation said will, and the word that they used is Spanish for that. So they were making the point that you have to have like the DNA and the mask. You can't just have one or the other.
You can just pick up the mask and be like, hey, what's this? And then put it on and be like...
And not just anyone with the DNA, I think, can do it. Like, you almost have to be deemed worthy by another family member that they're going to hand it down. Even if they weren't they weren't Santo themselves, if they had the responsibility of handing it down, they've chosen you in a way, you know?
And
to be there if you're needed.
I like that. And it lets me off the hook so I don't have to write the big Santo chronology story, which is fine. I have way too many other things on my to-write plate.
But it does leave you free in future to write other short stories that involve Santos because there can just be so many of them.
Potentially. And it doesn't fix the Mil Máscaras or Blue Demon issue.
Well, I'm not getting into that right now. Back to this one.
Santo's mask is clearly magic. It says so right on the label. It says abracadabra. It also is said to fortify him when he's losing his strength. It empowers him.
So he can reach out and grab you. I made that joke earlier. That's why he's not laughing now. But
so this movie, I kind of loved it, even though it's so silly.
It was fun. It was a romp.
There's so much just long stretches of spooky music on a loop. The wrestling matches, it's not a 2 out of 3 fall situation. It's just one fall.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get old.
I like it. Yeah, it's good. And he has different people he's wrestling, so it's good.
And he even jumps off the top rope once.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see
it was impressive.
Surprised to see that. Final thoughts.
I mean, I want to watch more Santo, and I definitely want to watch the one with Frankenstein's daughter. So, if you've got other Santo recommendations, don't be shy about writing in or calling in. And, thank you to everyone who did write in and call in. You make our day every time you do that, because it shows us that what we do matters to you, and that you want us to continue doing it. And we really do enjoy bringing you this content. So thank you.
And I think that's a great segue to go into Mr. Lehman's voicemail. So I'll play that here in a second. Beth, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
I know that it has been a crazy couple of weeks getting ready for Phoenix Fan Fusion in a couple of weeks.
So excited for that.
If you are in the Phoenix area and you're going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion, please reach out to us. We would love to meet you.
We're going to be there as much as we can across the weekend, but we will at sometime all 3 days be in the Lego featured room with some of our displays and, meeting people and talking to people. We can take selfies if you need or want. If you want to see our cool haunted house, if you want to see Derek's awesome Hispanic themed taco truck with luchadors.
It's a donut truck.
Oh, sorry.
Lucha Donuts.
It's Lucha Donuts. I just want tacos. We had something healthy for dinner instead, but I really wanted tacos.
Tomorrow. We'll do tacos tomorrow. There will be wrestling at Fan Fusion. There will be luchadors at Fan Fusion.
I know. I'm so excited.
So we would love to see you. If you're going to be there, reach out to me. I'll make sure there's a link to Fan Fusion in the show notes.
Yeah.
Again, what Beth said a second ago, we appreciate your feedback. So please reach out to us if you have any thoughts about Lucha de Mayo or anything else we've talked about here on the show. You can be one of the cool kids, like Captain Billy, like Marlo, or like Phil.
Hello, Bride of Monster Kid Radio. This is Bad Shark Blackhand from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Oh, I have more feedback this week. I realized I never shared that I heard about MKR from the People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. I had the pleasure of appearing twice with David Heath on that podcast. I really enjoyed episode 22 on Attack of the Giant Leeches. I haven't seen that movie in decades, and I'm going to have to watch it again. As for episode 23, I really like this type of podcast. I was very happy to hear what was the latest from Stephen D. Sullivan about his news, both familial and his professional ones. I still need to finish listening to his Atomic Tales on Christopher Mims' website. I really liked the beginning of this year's Lucha de Mayo on episode 24 with The Bride of the Crying Woman. I'm not very familiar with luchador movies. I've only seen bits and pieces of any, but I think this one sounds like a great one to start with. Here in New Mexico, La Lorena is more than just a goat. She's a symbol of the state's history, cultural identity, and there's still stories about her haunting the arroyos and riverways here in New Mexico. Now, on your question, I love the idea of new luchador movies, but I fear Hollywood would market them as parodies or jokes, so I don't know that they could survive in this day and age, perhaps as something on YouTube. I continue to appreciate Kenny's Look at Famous Monsters, as I never really read that magazine. When I was a kid, I read Starlog a lot and Fangoria when I could get it, but not so much Famous Monsters, so I'm happy to hear all the classic Forrest J. Ackerman writing. I also enjoy Mark Maskey's Beta Capsule review. I've only seen like one season of Ultraman, and I think it was Return of Ultraman. So it really helps to be to get his expert view on where to watch that. I just read your Monster Hunter for Hire novel in the Undead Tree format, and I found it a snappy, quick read, full of fresh ideas, and I really look forward to further Mark Temple stories. I'm also working my way through the Plan 9x9 podcast, as Plan 9 from Outer Space is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Bride of Monster Kid Radio and brings a curtain down on this year's Lucha de Mayo celebration here on the podcast. Worry not, there will be more luchador coverage in the future, if no later than next May. Maybe between now and then we'll do something else. I don't know. I just love luchador movies. But it's time to shake things up, and we're going to get into a new track of films next week on the show. I'll talk about that here in a moment. First, I want to say thank you to Beth, to Kenny from Old Mexico, to Robert Kelly, and to you, dear listener, for being along for the ride while we got our Lucha on. Also, thanks to Mark Matzke for the continued Beta Capsule review amazingness and, yeah, even the occasional bad pun. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love having y'all along for the ride for everything that we do here. Please follow us over at monsterkidradio.net and on pretty much every social media outlet out there. Facebook, X, Blue Sky, we're all over. Reddit, Discord, and Patreon. Patreon.com/monsterkidradio, where if you follow us for free, you don't have to be a paying patron to get this. If you follow us for free, you get show notes. And sometimes in those show notes, I'll announce on the Patreon side what is coming up in the following week. Sometimes I don't know what's going to happen in the following week when I'm actually recording this. So I'll put in the show notes over at monsterkidradio.net and social media. Next week, stay tuned. Whereas over on Patreon, I usually get it figured out and I'll announce there. And if you were paying attention to Patreon, you'll see that I did say I was going to be talking about the Diabolical Axe this week. If you follow us over on Patreon, and usually the show notes don't go up until like Wednesday or Thursday, you'll see what movie we're going to be talking about next week. But I will tell you, it's going to be a werewolf movie. We're going to do a month full of werewolf films. I know I kind of let the cat out of the bag or the wolf out of the bag last week when I had Kenny on the show, but we're going to be talking about werewolf movies. And I can tell you that one of those werewolf movies that we will be talking about is a Hammer film. And I don't think I've ever talked about Curse of the Werewolf here on the show. I know we used to talk about Hammer movies all the time over at 1951 Down Place with Scott Morris and Casey Criswell, and I know we talked about Curse of the Werewolf over there, but I don't think I've ever talked about Curse of the Werewolf here on the podcast proper. That's going to be coming up next month on the show. We're also going to be doing kind of like an overview of werewolf movies, and you know what? We're going to go a little outside the typical Monster Kid Radio window. At some point, we're going to touch on an American werewolf in London. Yeah, that's happening sometime in June. Stay tuned for all of that. MonsterKidRadio.net is where you're going to find links to everything that we talk about here on the show. Make sure you check that website out because there's our Amazon affiliate link, our contact information, which happens to be monsterkidradio@gmail.com. And our voicemail line is there. It's area code 360-524-2484. So you can leave some feedback here about anything you've heard about here on the show. You got upcoming events you want to talk about? You got anything you want to talk about Monster Kid related? I'd love to include it here on the show. Just call it in or even just write it in. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Pez Diablo is copyright 2024 Anémonas. It's from their EP and Directo. You can find them at anemonas.bandcamp.com. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook. Remember, the name of the band is Anémonas. It's spelled A-N-E, and it's got the little blip on it, M-O-N-A-S, or just follow the link in the show notes. And hey, check this out. They have a show coming up on June 7th. It's called the Tarantino Party. There's a number of other bands that are going to be playing there as well. It's happening in San Francisco. I'll make sure there's a link to that as well in the show notes. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week when we get our werewolf on. Ciao.